was the first time I ever drank. I was 14, and I was staying at my friend Leah's house in Atlanta, Georgia. And her parents were out of town that night, so we were on our own. I remember that first grain alcohol taste, that burning feeling as it went down my throat and the yucky smell. I also remember, though, the fast action feeling of looseness. I was queen of the world and drunk in no time, and I loved it. That was my first blackout drunk episode. And unfortunately, there were many more to follow. But I made a decision that if I was going to drink, I might as well get drunk. I mean, what was the point of drinking anyways? So I was a blackout drunk, the kind of person who drinks so much that their body goes on and does crazy things, and the brain is completely unconscious. In hindsight, this is pretty scary, right? But I thought that's what alcohol was for. Didn't everybody drink this way? So I knew, though, when I was at the age of 14, having my first drink, that I was not normal. And the reason I knew that is because I was raised in the program of Alcoholics Anonymous. I remember those rooms as a child, the smell of cigarette smoke and the smell of coffee. And I knew all about Al-Anon, AA, Alateen, Ala-whatever. I knew it all. And yet it didn't stop me from my own experimentation, because I'm a descendant of a long line of alcoholics. So fast forward to the year 1990, and I moved from South Georgia to Colorado. And this year, I left a fiance and a pretty crazy, messed up life. And this year is the culmination of my drinking and my recreational drug use. That summer I turned 21, and I toured after the Grateful Dead. Yes. And that whole time was filled with miracles. Anybody know what that is? And mishaps. It was filled with joy and adventure. There were snapshots of unadulterated pleasure happening, and there were a lot of crazy dancers that happened as well. It all ended in a blown motor in my car and a bus ride back to Georgia. And I know this all sounds fun, right? Yeah, it was terrifying. It was terrifying for me because I was waking up in places that I didn't know with people I knew I shouldn't be around. So when I was a little girl, I had this picture on my wall, and I don't remember where it came from. It actually probably came from an antique auction or something, because my dad and I used to go antiquing quite a bit. And I used to look at it and I would dream that I'm going to go there one day. And I just knew in my heart I was going to go there one day. And when I made the decision to move from Georgia to Colorado, that picture jumped off the wall. There were no storms, there were no people. It just jumped off the wall. The glass broke, the frame cracked open, and for the first time I was able to see what was printed on the back of that picture. And it said Lone Horse Mill, Colorado. I was in Colorado. It was awesome. So I headed out there, and I have to tell you that my dear friend, later on, after getting back in Georgia, I ended up hitchhiking to Crested Butte, Colorado, later on in that same year of 1990. And the first place I chose to go to was a AA meeting. And the reason why is because I grew up in those rooms and I knew those people would help me. And they did. I had a job and a place to stay pretty much right away. And I continued going to meetings, not because I had a problem. No, it was because I knew those people and they were the first people I met. Well, I'm sitting in the rooms in December of that year, and about halfway through the meeting, this feeling comes over me. It kind of made me nervous and jittery, and it was a spiritual experience. And I remember breaking down and crying, and for the first time, I looked up and I said, "Hi, my name is Allison, and I'm an alcoholic." That began my journey in recovery. So I talked about the mill. I was living an hour away from Lone Horse Mill in Marble, Colorado. So my dear friend Michael, he and I decided to take a little journey. And I should tell you, Michael and I, since high school, have had many adventures. Many of them we probably should not have survived, and this happens to be one of them. So we decided to jump into my 1976 International Scout. You had to bungee the door together. I had this brick of wood that I used as my parking brake. And to start it, you turn the key on, you run out, you jump around the front, you'd use the screwdriver on the solenoid to get it started. I bought it for $500 and I had to borrow $250 to get it. But it was four-wheel drive. So Michael and I are heading up to Marble, Colorado from Crested Butte. And we're taking our way up there, and the roads are getting a little less like roads, and they're becoming a little bit more challenging. And finally, it turns into this thing that is no longer really a road. It is carved out of the mountain, literally. It is a pathway that is slightly wider than my truck. And on this side, there's a 200-foot cliff into a ravine, and on this side, there is a slate wall. And this is it. And I'm white-knuckling it down. Now, I am from Georgia, right? Okay, so I am driving down this way, and I see at the bottom of the hill this bright red, shiny Jeep red Cherokee on his way up the hill. And I know in my brain, I'm going, this is unbelievable, right? Because there's no way, there's not like a passing lane here. So we end up being face to face on the way. And he proceeds to get out of his car, because you know I'm not getting out of mine, I have no parking brake. And he says, well, you gotta move your truck. And I was like, huh? This doesn't make any sense. You have the newer car. Just back on down, right? So we're there. This is where a knight in shining armor enters into my life for a very brief time. This guy's just out joyriding on a motorcycle, and he drives up there and he assesses the situation, and he looks at me and Michael and he says, I'll move your truck. I decided that it was okay for me to hike back to Crested Butte if I had to. So what ended up happening is we got out of the truck, he parked it. There was this place on the road. It was a little bit further down, so the red truck did have to back up a little bit and went down, and it was a little bit wider. And there were some boulders in the middle of this extended place. And so his plan was to take the truck, my truck, put it right on the edge, roll the driver's side wheels up onto that boulder so that the truck would be like this. I watched him do this. I don't think I actually breathed during this, but I watched him do this, and the truck was literally going boing, boing. I can only imagine he was looking out the passenger window into the ravine. The red truck shimmies around the left-hand side, peace signs us, and goes on his way. So Michael and I, we make it to Lone Horse Mill alive. And I remember getting out of the truck and looking at this picture, looking at this thing that I'd been seeing since I was a little girl, and not having words to express, and knowing without a shadow of a doubt that I could do anything I set my mind to, anything, and nothing would stop me. And I also knew at that time that my higher power was greater than anybody else's, and the reason why is because I made it there alive. And I got the message that I should go where the wind blows and do good things in the world. So fast forward to 2001. I'm a mom. I have a 4-month-old daughter. Her name is Rowan. And I have a 2-year-old daughter who is Elise. And I have a home daycare. And my husband and I, Brian, decide to go out to visit his family in Washington State for a family reunion. Well, we arrive in Seattle, and his cousin Mary Beth pulls out these balloons and says, I know what will make your kids love me. And I'm like, bring it on. I got kids, keep them entertained. Well, she starts making balloon animals, and I'm like, can you show that to me? And so literally the first time I ever had my hands on a balloon, it was like a chemical reaction in my body. So much so that I spent the entire 10 days passing my children off to all the family members so I could twist balloons. Yeah. So when I got back to Greeley, I went to the library. I checked out every single book, every single video that I could to get as much information as I could. I also, then 2 weeks later, Brian and I are sitting in the IHOP over in Loveland, and there was a balloon twister over there, and we called her over, and I vomited my excitement and said, I'm a new balloon twister, I'm so excited. And she was like, well, we're looking for somebody to take over this restaurant. I was like, I'll do it. I am now making money doing balloons. I know. And so 2 weeks after that, let me finish this really quick and put this on here. 2 weeks after that, I meet with this guy from Wyoming, and he hires balloon artists for restaurants. And I'm like, okay, cool, another job, right? So we interview with each other, and he shows me a couple of things that I can make. And then he hands me his contract and says, you need to sign this. It's a no-compete clause in there. And I was like, well, I can't sign that. I'm already competing with you. Why don't you change your contract so I can work for you? I don't know very many people that would do that. But he said no. And so I vowed I was going to knock him out of Colorado within 2 years. And I did. And so very shortly after that, I got this phone call from State Farm, our local State Farm. And they said, hey, I hear you're doing balloons. We have this party here at the UCCC for 200 kids. And I'm like, oh, yeah, awesome. And I go, yes, I will get back to you and give you some more information. I hang up the phone and I look at my husband and I go, Brian, you got to learn how to make balloon animals. Thank goodness he was not only willing, but he was very good at it. So we did this party for 200 kids. And I remember we are doing this party. Now, I didn't know a lot about doing line work at the time, but I remember at the time that we were twisting so many balloons, and our fingers were literally raw and hurting. And this cute little girl came up to me at the end, and she goes, can I please have a flower? And I was like, my hands will not do this again. And so she got a ladybug, not a flower. So after this, Brian and I decided we needed to name our endeavor. So we went to the dictionary to find out, we looked up joy, happiness, entertainment, and the words that kept coming up were merriment, merry, make it merry, merry makers. And so in the year 2001, or September 2001, Merry Makers was born. And that is how the company got started. So a year and a half later, I decided to go to an international balloon convention. And when I walked down into the hotel down in Texas, the first thing that happened to me is I was humbled. By this time, I had a year and a half of balloon twisting under my belt, and I had trained 2 balloon artists. I thought I was pretty good stuff. But when I walked in there, I knew nothing. It was like I was a brand new baby in this industry. And, but I will tell you, I met some of the most amazing people in my life. And to show you how young this industry is, some of those people I met are some of the pioneers in our industry today. When I got back from that convention, there was a message on my answering machine from Perfect Wedding Guide. And they wanted to hire, or they wanted to do a trade offer. Sorry as I make a lot of noise really quick. They did a trade offer. They said, if you'll come do balloon arches for me, we'll give you a free booth. And so I said, sure, that sounds like a lot of fun. And so the very first balloon decor I ever did, and I consider this balloon decor, hopefully that's on top, I was doing for potentially paying customers. I loved it. I had a viable business happening here, right? So I am making balloon animals. I have a home daycare. So 7 months later, after we set up the balloon decor for the Greeley Mall's soft play area, I went into the hospital and gave birth to my 3rd daughter, Isabel, that night. Yeah, I didn't get to go strike that job. But Isabel hung out in a sling, literally, during trade shows, wedding shows, when I was building balloon decor. I'm nursing a baby and shaking hands. This is the way I did it. And so I actually did lose my place there. Sorry, guys. When she was 6 months old, I realized that I wanted to invest more time in my business. I was doing parties every single weekend. I had a couple of balloon decor things throughout the month. And so I decided to close my home daycare. And I jumped off that cliff and I invested in my company to see what I could do with Merry Makers. So I've had a lot of moments of doubt in the years that I've been doing this business. And I always come back to how happy this business actually makes me. And every time I build something, have my hands on a balloon, I have this complete sense of joy. And it's not just my joy, it's my joy that I see from people that receive the balloons from me. They see the what I put into them, and they see the art and the passion. And I'm inspired every day by my clients, by my friends, by other balloon artists. And I wake up every day literally thinking, there's more to do here. So I built my business on integrity, artistic vision, and the relationships I've built in my community. And I couldn't do any of that without the lessons I learned in the program of Alcoholics Anonymous. You see, I believe that my disease paces me and stands right next to me every step I take. It is cunning, baffling, powerful, and it's patient. And if I were to take a drink today, I don't think there's enough alcohol in the world to save me. And so this makes me think of words an old timer shared with me one time. I was about 6 months sober, and I was questioning my decision to be sober at the time. And she just looked at me and she said, Allison, it's okay not to drink. And while those words are super simple, they were a profound part of my decision to stay sober. And they are a profound part of my decision today in everything I do. And God willing and the river don't rise, I will have 28 years on December 15th of 2018. Thank you. So, I make plans, but I don't plan the outcome. And I do this every day, one day at a time, one balloon at a time. And I just want to say this. Hi, my name is Allison, and I'm a grateful recovering alcoholic.